Hello, I'm Gavin Horgan, Headmaster of Millfield School in Somerset, the largest co-educational boarding school in the UK. Welcome to the Millfield Way Podcast. Here, you'll hear from teachers, coaches and students from Millfield and Millfield Prep School. Millfield is traditionally different, and this is the Millfield Way.
Hello and welcome to this Millfield Way podcast in conversation with Joe Moore and Mark Speyers. My name's Liz Webb, and for this episode I'm pleased to be joined by Acacia and Joan's Kitchen housemaster and mistress Joe and Mark. So for a bit of background, at Millfield we have 19 boarding houses and 5 day houses for our 1,300 students. Around 950 students board, many of those are new to boarding. So today we want to just find out what it's like to live here during term time, and Joe and Mark are the perfect people to tell us all about that. So let's kick off with the first question. Can you just go through a bit about how long you've both worked here and what different roles you've done whilst you've been here?
Okay, hi Liz. I think I'll start. I've been at Millfield for going on 16 years now. I've performed various roles through the school. Began as an assistant housemaster and graduated to my current role as housemaster of Joan's Kitchen. And I've been doing that for 11 years now.
Excellent. Joe?
I have been at Millfield for 10 years. Started my career at Millfield as head of food and nutrition and became an assistant house mistress in a senior house. And since that, my role has developed into the Year 9 programme, and I've been running Acacia House, which is Year 9 girls, for 7 years.
Fantastic. And so your houses are quite different because, Joe, yours is a Year 9 girls boarding only house, and Mark, yours is a senior house which has students from year 10 to upper 6. So can you tell us the differences in your houses and what they're like?
Yeah, I mean, as a through senior house, we go from year 10 to year 13 to upper 6th. The house is, the year groups are fairly balanced, generally between 15 and 18 per year group. And the year 10s and 11s will share bedrooms, and then once they get into the 6th form, the majority of students will go into single ensuite pods, which rooms, which are very popular, as you can imagine. So they've come from, most of them come in from the Year 9 program, so they come in Year 9 and they're all living together in their houses, and then they get divided up into groups and come into our houses, mixed in with a few additional new ones to the school. And then we also have a number of students who join us for the 6th form, which is a very popular entry point, and also provides a lovely refresh to the house when the younger ones move through the school.
So in the senior houses, overall, how many students are there roughly in each
So
house?
we're the biggest house at the moment. We're sitting on 66.
Mm-hmm.
But on average, I would say between 55 and 65 is your standard senior house, both boys and girls.
Okay, great. And Joe, your house is quite unique.
Very unique. So Acacia is the Year 9 girls boarding house on campus. It has capacity for 60 girls. The makeup of that is around a third will come up from our Millfield Prep School, 2/3 will come externally into the school. Some have boarded, some have not, so it's a whole new experience for everyone. Our makeup in the house is a makeup of singles, doubles, triples, rooms, so the girls get to experience all aspects of it. So in preparation for their transition into the senior houses, they get the opportunity to share with people, but also have that experience of being on their own, developing their independence and preparing them for their next steps.
And so when they transition to the senior house, how does that work? Do they get to choose a couple of friends that they go with, or how is it done?
So when we look at the transition into the senior houses, yes, we do ask our students for preference of friendship group. However, we do spend a lot of time looking at which house would be good, making sure that the makeup of our groups going across are balanced across both academics and sports to ensure that we've got a good balance in the senior houses.
Okay, fantastic. And so what are your main roles and responsibilities as housemasters and mistresses? I know this probably covers a huge range of things, so it'd be good to know what some of those are.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is an all-encompassing role. The idea of us being parental figures to the children in our care, and as most parents will know, that means you do pretty much do everything from tidying up after them to making sure that they're okay when they're upset. So we do. I mean, we're involved in all aspects of our children's lives. We monitor their academic work, but we also support them pastorally. We balance their programs. I've recently been spending a lot of time looking at timetables and revision timetables as we get closer to exam season. And more than anything, I think it's just really important that it's a home away from home when they're at school, because it's essential that they have a place which is not necessarily school, if you know what I mean. Yeah. It's something which is somewhere different, and they can be themselves. And with the pressures on young people today, it's important that they have somewhere where they feel comfortable, and with people around them that they feel comfortable with. So basically my role, as I see it, is just to keep the ship afloat and keep things going, but also just to make sure that the boys in Joan's kitchen feel like that is their safe space and their place where they can be themselves.
And I suppose in your house, for those that come in year 10 into your house, they're with you for 4 years. So I imagine you get to know them really, really well, and their families. Those that come in lower 6 and will be there for 2 years. Yeah. How do you know all the boys?
Well, it's conversation, constant conversation and engagement. And you, as you say, 4 years is, although it feels like a heartbeat for many of them, and many of us. I mean, I can't believe every year when I say goodbye to the uppers, I can't believe how quickly it's gone. But it's amazing how quickly students assimilate into the house, whether they come in year 10 or come in lower 6th. Within a few months, it feels like they've always been there. And there's always a hole when they leave. No matter who they are, there's always a hole that they leave. And, having been doing it for a long time, I've kept in contact with many, and I'm showing my age, but I've been invited to. I've actually had my first invite to a wedding, which is quite terrifying. But that's the beauty of it, is that it stays with them, and they feel a real connection to their house. They form really strong bonds. And so it's not unusual for me to be invited, when they come down, they're normally meeting up with one another, and then I get the invite as well, and it's lovely to go back and reminisce. But it becomes their community and becomes their family, really, while they're here. So.
And Jo, you have them for 1 year to get to know lots of new into the school students. You must then know quite a few of the girls around the school generally, because if they're boarders, they've been through your house when they first arrived. What's it like for you in your role?
Really different, I guess, from the senior houses, because we do only have them for 1 year, and I've got an amazing team around me as well, and we do lots of activities, part of the 9 at Millfield programme, which allows us to really get to know the individuals themselves. And as you say, in fact, going to the dance show last night, seeing girls that were with me in year 9 now in the upper 6, and where they've actually transitioned and grown, is absolutely amazing to see them doing that. And it's interesting, because in year 9 the girls will come in and they're very nervous and very shy. And actually having the opportunity to still be on the school, still be a teacher here as well, and see those students making that amazing transition and progressing pastorally, academically, is absolutely superb.
And so for those new year 9 girls, what's the kind of everyday role that you play for them in the house?
So initially it's the settling in.
Yeah.
We do have, there are cases where girls do struggle. They'll come in, they'll never have boarded, they've never been away from home before, and I play the role where it's, helping them understand what boarding is about, helping them settle into routines, being their mum.
Yeah.
I feel like I definitely am a mum for 60 girls every single year, which has its pros and its cons.
I'm not sure how you do that.
60 13-year-olds all in one house. Sometimes it has magical moments, sometimes not so magical, but it's about developing their sort of resilience as well, developing how they deal with each other, empathy within the house towards one another, and building relationships, successful relationships within the year group. Because if we can manage that in year 9, as they then make the transition into our senior boarding houses, the year 10 and 11 relationships generally are much easier to manage, and they can move forwards with that.
I think something that is a reality for all of us. Homesickness is a real thing, and just listening to Jo talking about her, assimilating. Good luck to you, year 9 girls. I've got one of my own, so I can't imagine another 59. But homesickness is something that we deal with regularly, and I think no matter how old you are, no matter where you are, what stage you are in your life, being away from home is difficult. And it's about, part of our role is about actually openly and honestly talking about it. It's not something that children suffer in silence about. It's really important that we talk and we're open. I find in Joan's kitchen setting, in the sort of the senior house, often the most homesick students I get are actually sometimes in the lower sixth, and that's often because they're leaving home, but they're also leaving far more adult relationships. I think coming in the younger years, whilst it is traumatic for younger students to potentially be away from mum and dad, they are leaving behind a peer group which is more a childlike friendship group, whereas lower sixth are often coming in often leaving potentially boyfriends and girlfriends at home, and very, very close relationships, which can be very, very difficult. But saying that, it's always worth the effort, because it does teach you so much about yourself, and ultimately leaving home is a reality for all of us. So often with my lower sixth that come in who are particularly homesick, I try and get them to think about the fact that they're actually just leaving home just 2 years earlier than they will have to anyway, because if they're planning to go off to university, they would be feeling this in 2 years' time rather than what they're feeling now. So it's a very good preparation for ultimately, leaving home and getting away, and being alone, and having to develop that independence, and develop, also a regulation of emotion and all those sorts of things. So.
And I suppose when you look at the term time structure, they're actually not away for big chunks if they live in the UK and they can go home easily for Acacia or half terms or Christmas holidays. Slightly different for our international students who can't always make the trip back home because it's too far. So, but I think the longest is 6 or possibly 7 weeks.
That's my soundbite. I think I'm going to record it and just have it on repeat. It's 6 weeks at a time, and that does make it a lot easier. Doing chunks, and we're very lucky that our terms are structured in that way. But it's because of our amazing international presence, and we have so many incredible kids from all over the world, and our term dates make that possible. And yes, it's difficult, and we all have students who for whom it is very, very tricky. But actually, just as I say, talking about it, communicating, and not hiding it away. It is a reality, and it's not something to be ashamed of. It's something to work through and talk about.
And just going back, Jo, so talking about the year 9 girls, completely new to boarding, coming in at that age, I suppose you also then have the parents who it's new to them that their child is away boarding. So how do you work with them to reassure them and build relationships with those parents?
Absolutely. I think parents do struggle sending their child across into a boarding environment, and they are not always aware of expectations. So what's really important is our communication with our parents. So right from the very beginning through the admissions process, there are lots of opportunities for our parents to come in to see the boarding houses as well. So we offer lots of transitional events, open days, which we really encourage our families to come along to. come and meet us, meet my team, see the house, and really get a feel for the house. Once that decision has been made and students arrive in September, and actually pre-September, I spend quite a lot of my time in the summer opening up conversations with parents, whether it's by email or a FaceTime call. Sometimes I'm sat in my garden at home over the summer, but it's really great to get to know the parents and actually understand what their expectations are as well, for their daughter coming across into our boarding houses and into the school. And then on arrival, I will just plug our little Instagram account. Our Year 9 Instagram account is an absolutely amazing way for our parents to see what is happening during the day. I'm sure parents will relate to this, but you get that phone call home. I know I certainly do at home. What have you done at school today? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And I think it's really important. So what I try and do is send out an update as well, so a half-termly and termly update of what we've done in the house, so that parents are aware of any key events that are happening. And I'm always really encouraging our parents, those that can, come across and see their daughter being involved in an activity, whether it is on a sports pitch, whether it is in a dance studio. And it is so lovely that we've got the facilities at Millfield to be able to record, support, and allow our parents to see. I mean, some of my girls, I don't know, your boys as well, will have been involved in the music, Millfield Musician of the Year. And it's been amazing. It's streamed out for our parents to be able to see.
The live streaming is amazing. It's really good. And the ability to actually watch those concerts when you're on the other side of the world is it's really special. And I've had a lot of, parents are really really happy and really grateful for the opportunity, because it is difficult. It is, but on that, we all understand how hard it is, and we empathise with parents, and we understand that it's there's nothing worse than a phone call from a child who's upset or in a bit of a state or confused or needing some guidance, but as Joe says, the better the relationship, then the more trust there is, and the more you can end up working as a team. And I'd say that's probably the key to success in boarding, is working with parents and teachers and coaches and everyone in the child's life, to form a team and trust one another and support them.
Fantastic. And so do you both have other roles in the school as well as running your houses?
Yes, we both do, yes.
And how do you fit all that in?
That's a really good question. Sometimes I question that. I am also teacher of food studies as well. And there are moments where I question how I do fit in practical work with my students. Obviously, being a practical subject, it can be quite demanding doing that as well. But we have quite a good schedule, and we're very, very lucky that we do teach a reduced timetable to allow us that extra bit of time to work within the house, build up anything that we need to work upon pastorally with our students within the boarding house as well. Communication is key to this. Everyone knows our timetables, where we are, and I've got an amazing support network and team around me that are there to help and run elements where, if I'm teaching or if I'm in an exam, for example, there are people that the students know very well who will be able to help out.
And we're going to come on to the team in the house in a moment. Mark, what else do you do?
I teach in the English and Media department, very similar to Joe, the reduced timetable, thank heavens. It's the only thing that saves me most days. But yeah, it is demanding. I also do run the new staff induction to the school, so I often joke I'm probably the only person who knows everyone at this place, but that's actually a lovely role, and I really enjoy that. But yeah, I mean, we're all teaching, coaching, working members of staff, and I think that's important. I think that's a really good way of doing it, because we do understand the pressures of what the training sessions look like, what the lesson schedule, what the timetable's like. We also know our colleagues really well, because we're part of the common room and we're part of the team.
And I think it's great as well that the students see us not just in our housemaster mistress role, that they see us as teachers, as a coach, and they see the broader spectrum of our job role that we're involved in.
It's a bit like teaching your own children, though.
Yeah.
It is quite. I've got one of my classes. I've got 3 of the JK boys in there, and I get a critique in the evenings when I get back to house. I'm told how my lesson was, which is quite sweet.
Do they call you any kind of motherly, fatherly nicknames or
No.
anything? Not that you know.
I mean, I think much like most people, I'm referred to as purely by my surname, which is considering my wife refers to me like that. I think that's probably why everybody just they never do it to my face. It's always in the background.
You see, now I always get the sixth formers coming back and they say, "Mummy Moore."
Oh, Mummy Moore.
Mummy
Oh,
Moore.
nice.
Oh,
That's
Mummy
sweet.
Moore.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Okay, so in the house, you don't do it all on your own. What are the teams that you have to support you?
Okay, so I mean, I think the 2 key people really is we have an assistant. We all have assistant housemaster and mistresses who are vital to supporting us, and then the other key person is our matron. And we have a matron. All the houses have matrons that look after the house during the daytime, and also support the students tremendously. So those 2 for me are key figures. They are the people who, allow me the space and time to do the time consuming elements of the job. And also provide an incredible barometer for what's going on in the house, and there's an awareness and a understanding of the students. And then we also have we call them liaison tutors, who are normally part of our group tutor team. So the students are broken up into tutor groups, in year groups, so they're like the tutor system. And they are those group tutors also come in and do duties in house, which is lovely, because that means you've got a connection where they're not only seeing them in the mornings during group tutor time, but they're also seeing them in a different context. And we were actually talking about this recently, that actually it's when in house, it is a different context, and staff feel differently to the way they feel in lessons and at school or on the sports field. It is a far more homely feel to it, and those relationships develop so well when there's just conversation around over a cup of tea or having a laugh over something that somebody's done or said during the day, or it's very much like a family situation where you post dinner sit and have a laugh at what's going on, and there's a real sort of warmth to that.
And is that the same for your house as well, Jo?
it is pretty much the same. The only difference with our year 9 houses and the 2 larger houses, we do have 2 assistants, which does mean that I've got an extra pair of hands on site attached to the house. Yeah. So we've got extra support with the year 9 students overnight.
Okay. And so can you run us just briefly through what a day looks like in your house? So what time do the girls get up? What do? They go off to lessons. What do they do in the evenings? What time do they go to bed? Just kind of a quick overview of how that works.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess it's important as well to recognise here that the Year 9 programme is far more structured than the rest of the school as well. So it is a really structured routine. We're up, we register at 7:10 a.m. at Mr. Speyers' face. So we're up at 7:10, we head off to breakfast, we come back to the house about 7:45. That gives the students plenty of time then to get prepared for the day ahead, up into their group tutor at 8:30, and then into lessons from 9 o'clock. They have a short break at mid-morning, so 10 to 11 until 20 past. And then lunchtime is slightly extended, which is lovely. The year 9s go into the dining hall 5 minutes before the rest of the school. So it means that they get to go in without having to worry about standing in a queue or, trying to get to food and get back and off to an activity. During lunch times, there are lots of activities, an absolute plethora of activities that go on, that students may go to music, they may go to a sporting activity. For some, they may just not have anything on that day, and it means that they've got plenty of time to relax, be social with one another in the sort of common areas, or they might decide to use that time to do some extra prep.
Or some prep.
Reading.
Does that
Some
happen?
prep.
Does that,
Extra prep or prep.
Or prep.
I was going to say, does that happen often?
It does. Do you know, in the Year 9
Yeah.
house, yes, it does.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes,
yeah,
they
that's good.
will sit. We've got a really nice common room area where the matron is based as well, and they will often sit just around the tables doing a little bit of prep, having a chat with matron at lunch times, and then they go back into lessons for the afternoon lessons. Every night of the week, Year 9s have a programme of activities through from 4 till 5 in the evening. So they may go off on Monday evenings, we do our outdoor education. Tuesday evenings we run a co-curricular session. Wednesdays they have sport. Thursdays they have a Year 9 club, and Fridays they have the Millfield activities programme. It's really full on as a Year 9 boarder. They then head off to supper at 5:30. We're in for roll call at 6:15, so we have a house meeting every night, which is really nice. It brings the whole house together, gives us a great opportunity to share good news notices. Sharing people's achievements throughout the day is amazing. It's a great opportunity to do that for the whole house to recognise and support their peers. We then have prep until 7:45. They have an hour's worth of downtime, so whether they choose to go and have snacks in the kitchen, have a hot chocolate with their friends, go out and play outside. We have sole use of the campus astro, so they can go and have a game of football, game of hockey, whatever they choose to go out and do, which is supervised as well, so it's a safe space for them to go out and have a little bit of relaxation, a bit of fun with their friends. We then do the dreaded collecting in of devices. Every student's worst moment, I think. 8:45, hand in your device. And we also do reading, so 9 till 9:30. So they hand in the devices, get ready for bed. At 9 till 9:30 we have a quiet reading, half an hour, where we expect the students to be in bed reading, or they may be journaling, or they may be colouring, doing something that relaxes their mind before they go to bed. So 9:30 is lights out during the week. They do get a slight extension on a Saturday night, and then it's...
And at lights out time, does someone go round to all the rooms and check that they are lights out?
They absolutely do.
Yeah.
So myself and my team on duty, so we're really lucky. We have 3 members of staff usually on duty in the boarding house. And at lights out, so even at 9 o'clock we go round, we just check in. Are you reading? Is there something on your mind? It's really good opportunities for students to have that chat and have an informal chat. Maybe it's something good about their day they want to share with a member of the team, or maybe something that's not been so good and they just want a little bit of advice in a more sort of space where they feel safer in their room. They may be on their own, they may be with someone else, and they feel quite comfortable at that stage sharing more with you. Which is really nice to see. So, but there's always a staff presence, and even after lights out, we still have a wander around and make sure everyone is actually trying to sleep.
Yeah. And is it different in a senior boys'
Yeah,
house?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, I think it's just a little bit later. A lot of that is very, very similar. So my junior boys are up between 7:20-ish. But it's sort of staggered. Mm-hmm. They will then go straight up to breakfast up in the dining hall. The difference is they don't return to house. So I think the Year 9s, because they have an earlier breakfast, they return to house. But the boys will then go on straight to either, a lot of them have got activities in the morning. They might have a music lesson, or they might have something on, or they just use that time to potentially catch up on a bit of prep, or go and just socialise and meet with friends. And then they go straight into group tutor time, which is the same as Year 9 across the school. And then they go into their 5-lesson day. On the point you were making about lunchtime and prep, I think what I find is a lot of boys will manage their time according to when they like to work. Yes, we have a set prep time in the evenings, but I find a lot of boys will prefer to get their prep done earlier. They prefer to do it at lunchtime, or they prefer to do it after school.
And I suppose it's that time management, isn't it? So if they've got something on that evening and their deadline for prep is the next day, then they need to think, okay, when is it during the day that I can
And sometimes they need a little bit of help with that, and we're quite happy to help. But really, by the time they get to the 6th form, they get very, very good at managing their time in that way. So they will have their 5 lessons in a day, and then, again, activities at lunchtime. They can go back to house at lunchtime. So matron is is obviously in house and can help them with various bits and pieces. A lot of boys will go and have lunch and then go back and and just rest for a while, or have a chat and go and have a cup of tea and relax. And then after school, busy, most afternoons there's something on, although we don't have a structured program because they're actually too busy anyway. A lot of them have got a number of sessions per week. So afternoons are an opportunity to either have a calm hour or maybe do a bit of prep, or they're going to have an activity between after school, so 4:00 and 5:30, which is supper. Same time for supper. We have a house meeting as well, but ours is slightly later, 7:00. And then, as I say, they go into prep. Some nights it's time to do some laundry or whatever, but most of the time it's straight into prep. And then they get a bit of free time after prep. And then for year 10s and 11s, it's time to hand in devices, which again, just like the year 9s, is not the most popular time of the day, but a very important part of the day. And then they have a staggered bedtime. But year 10s, their lights out is 10:00, and year 11s, their lights out is at 10:15. Now the sixth form slightly different. The sixth form are given a little bit more freedom when it comes to device management. But obviously that's subject to them using them appropriately. And so they are permitted to keep their devices overnight. But to be honest, most of them manage it pretty well. And it's down to us as staff just to make sure that they're in bed and lights are out. So the sixth form lights out is about 11:00. Okay. But to be honest, most of them are fast asleep by then because they're tired.
Yeah.
And by the time it gets to weekends, and we sort of started talking about weekends a little bit, so they get a little bit more. It's a bit later on a Saturday evening, and actually the juniors actually are allowed to keep their iPads, not their phones, but they keep their iPads on a Saturday evening. Although the Wi-Fi does switch off. So, but it's the opportunity that if they want to fall asleep watching a film, they can do so, and that's pretty much what they do every Saturday evening. I spend a lot of time on a Saturday evening going around and taking an iPad off of someone's chest because they've just fallen asleep with it on their face or on their chest. So they get that. But yeah, as I say, because of such a busy school and 6 days a week, they on a Saturday evening they are exhausted. They have an opportunity to get a takeaway, which is the highlight of the week for most of them on a Saturday evening. But for most of them, that is the moment that they get to rest. And then Sunday morning, they get a lie-in. So brunch is served at 11:15 on a Sunday morning. So they get they'll get some light snacks in house before that because we can't go until 11:15. No food,
I was
going
to say that.
So most of them have breakfast and then have second breakfast when they go to brunch. So they go to brunch at 11:15, and then there's an opportunity to go down into town, go and do some shopping, or go and wander around with their friends and go and have a hot chocolate somewhere or something like that. Which a lot of them use that opportunity. They also have an opportunity to go and work in the library if they want to go and do some study and revision, which a lot of students do use that opportunity. They also have obviously our incredible facilities, so they can go out and play and have a big game of football, or they can go and use the gym. So Sundays are very relaxed days, and they need to be relaxed days.
Yeah.
I find the older they get, the less they want any organised fun, because actually they're just desperate for some downtime. Yeah. And then Sunday nights we try and get them back into school routine. So we try and get them to prepare. Well, we do get them to prepare for the week and make sure they've cleaned up any prep and tidied rooms, which is always a Sunday night activity, because the chaos of the weekend.
Sounds like my home.
It's exactly the same as most people's homes,
Yeah.
And it's that, okay, have you packed your bag? Have you sorted yourself out? Do you know what you've got tomorrow? What's coming up this week? Those sorts of helpful sort of training that they need that they would get at home.
Yes.
It's that awareness of what's coming.
Planning.
Yeah, and planning, getting sorted. Yeah, absolutely.
And how about for year 9s on Sunday? What do they do?
So the slight difference for us is that throughout the year we have the 9 at Millfield programme. So, for example, last weekend on Sunday we went off to Dorset and we did Go Ape. So we did the high ropes at Go Ape on Sunday. So there are different activities throughout the year. We also do really push the relaxing Sundays, and actually, we can put activities in house for them to do. So often there may be an option of doing a craft activity, but we do encourage them to actually just take a moment and relax, be with one another.
Yeah.
It's lovely actually to see on a Sunday morning, just reflecting on what Mark was saying about the food being out early. We definitely need it in Year 9. They do not sleep in. They are definitely up 7:30, 8 o'clock on Sunday morning. So breakfast and things are out. And what's so lovely and quite special to see, as they settle into the term, they bring their duvets down, they throw themselves on the sofas with their breakfast, a little bowl of cereal or slice of toast, and they're watching something together.
Yeah.
And that's pretty special.
Nice.
Yeah. Once you see that happening on a Sunday, just allowing them to relax.
Yeah. So with all your experience of doing your roles for the long time that you have, what would you say is the best thing about boarding for a student?
I think there's so many. It's very difficult to isolate one best thing, but I would say I think it's being part of something, and it's about community. There are lots of benefits to it, but I wouldn't say that they're the best thing. There's benefits in terms of being able to manage a busy program and having all the facilities and everything on hand all the time, but actually being part of a community where you're known and you're understood and you're given the space to develop whilst with others. And actually watching these boys grow up together is a real privilege, and it's something that they all, in hindsight, when they come back, will always say, they may not remember what was said, what they learnt in maths in year 11. They may not remember that hockey match that happened, but they will remember the boarding environment, and they'll remember living with, and that moment where they had a realization about themselves, or they had a sort of built a really strong relationship, or and that's what it's about. It's about that community for me.
And Jo, what about you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I echo what Mark has just said. And I think for Year 9, it just really allows them to find their feet as well. Really gives them that opportunity to learn about the school, learn about themselves. We often see, and I know it's the same whether you come in Year 9, 10 or the lower 6, that students will come and say, I'm a hockey player. And actually Year 9, because of the breadth of activities that are available, just allowing them to experiment, to try out new things. And by the end of Year 9, we often see people make different choices going into Year 10. Actually, that's maybe not for me. And I think the best thing about being a boarder here is that you have full access to all of our facilities. You can be part of the bigger programme, so to speak, and you get to know yourself, as well as making some amazing memories and some amazing friendships that do last a lifetime.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good. Not only it's about being in touch, in close contact with the facilities, but it's also about living with people who potentially do different things to what you do. And that often happens where a student will come in as a hockey player but actually make really good friends with someone who does something completely different, and actually go and give that a try and find that actually that's even more fun and even better. So it's the exposure to a number of different people from different backgrounds doing different things, and that creates this amazing mix, which then it literally pushes everyone on. Everyone is trying new things and trying to find that thing that they love.
I imagine as a parent and as a student coming to boarding now, having never experienced boarding or not knowing anything about it, I would imagine the main concern is, what if they don't make friends? What if they don't settle in? What if they don't like it? What if it just doesn't work for those first few weeks? So, what would you say to someone that's worried about that?
Yeah, I think it would be wrong to suggest that things always work immediately. There will always be ups and downs, and there will be good moments and bad moments. And yes, friendships can take time to develop. And yes, sometimes those friendships need to be nurtured and helped, and people need to be, we spend a lot of time in group dynamic. I talk about group dynamics a lot with the boys, and just showing them an appreciation for one another and that sort of thing. But I think, those concerns, whilst they are natural and completely understandable, the number of examples that I could share with you of boys who potentially, found it really tricky to get on with one another in year 10, who end up, best men at one another's weddings and being, lifelong friends. It's often that adversity and that period of transition which forms those strong bonds. And I think to think that all students are going to arrive and find their best friend in the world within the first 2 days is it's not always going to work like that, and hardly ever, in fact. But in the right environment, with the right support, and in the right way, they will eventually find their tribe. They'll find their people, and sometimes that's not even necessarily boys. In my experience, boys in the house. Sometimes their best friend that they end up making, they actually met clay pigeon shooting, and actually that's their best friend in the world, but he's in a different house which is about 100 meters away from our house. But you know what? That's fine, because he's got other friends in the house, and he sees that friend when he goes shooting or when he goes to supper with him, and that's really important. It's not necessarily just the people you live with. You can have friends beyond that, and that's in a way that's quite similar to a family.
Yes.
You have the people you live with, and they're not necessarily, I know with siblings, they're not necessarily always your favourite people in the world.
Your family,
no, you don't always choose them, no. And very similarly, you don't choose the boys that you're bored with. But all of that is really important for allowing them to develop those skills, that empathy, that understanding, that tolerance. And tolerance is something I talk about a lot with the boys, is that, not everyone's the same. And you may be particularly motivated to do really well at school and study really hard, and so people who mess around and maybe don't quite have the same, that doesn't make them, it just makes them different to you. And I think it's getting boys to understand that we're all different, and they can, that doesn't necessarily make it a bad thing.
Yeah, fantastic. And Joe, what would you say about year 9 particularly?
From experience, is that I would really encourage parents to support us by just encouraging them to the students to get involved, give everything a go. And it's just echoing what Mark is saying, that actually you don't always make your best friend or good friends straight away. Throughout year 9, as I say, we've got 60 girls that come into the house, and often what we see is that they will sort of channel their energies in one particular area. And we encourage them to break that up, which is why we've got the mixed tutor groups. So we try not to put people who know each other together, and we mix that in and encourage the mix to develop, so that actually who they sort of first, when they come in and eyeball someone and think, I'm not sure about them, actually we often see that those people are the ones they become friends with later on in the year. And friendships change. Friendships change hugely. Particularly, I'm going to say, with year 9, particularly with girls, they're 13 years old, they are learning about themselves as well. So the more encouragement that we give them to try new experiences, getting to know one another, really helps them to develop friendships. And it is good that they get involved. And it is really horrible that I'm going to say this, but I do say to parents, sometimes they need to back off a little bit and let their children get to know other people.
I think it's a very tough. I mean, I often say to the boys that if you ask me what age I would never go back to, it would be year 10, because I just remember what it felt like being a year 10, and I think it's whether it's year 9 or 10, boys and girls, I think it is an awkward age. It's adolescence. It's it's puberty. It's all those things that make being yourself an issue, not necessarily even making friends, but you're so self-critical and you're so self-aware, and so that makes you automatically more sensitive and also desperately trying not to look silly. And a lot of the time, I find with boys, a lot of problems arise when they're just desperately trying to be liked and desperately trying not to look to stand out. And so again, it's this is what we do, and this is how and over the years you develop strategies to help students find their way and feel comfortable in themselves, and that I think is the key, is feeling comfortable with who they are, and whether by the time they get to the upper sixth, are they comfortable with what they are, what they're good at, and what they are, or are they still trying to hide the fact that they're actually very talented at one specific thing, which might not be the most popular thing in the world, and it's wonderful to see them finding that thing that they're brilliant at, finding that thing that allows them to feel proud, and that comes from developing with people around them and understanding other people, and then therefore understanding themselves.
So thank you both for everything you've already said so far. Loads of really useful information. My final question is about the 3 key takeaways that you would suggest that listeners, having gone through everything we've talked about, what are the things that you really want them to remember from the podcast? I think
one of my biggest thing is the idea of actually giving it a go. I think it's something that is incredibly worthwhile, and I think there's a wonderful opportunity for children and young people to grow exponentially and also develop skills which will take them far into the future. And so I think in terms of the benefits of boarding, the sort of key takeaway for me is that developing in a group and developing with a support structure around you, especially when you've got a very busy program, is enormously beneficial, and will actually help you develop all sorts of parts of yourself which otherwise would potentially take a bit longer. And I think I'm obviously a huge advocate of boarding, and it's just about that community and the community around you, the friendships that you make are absolutely invaluable.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I echo that as well, Mark. And I think, my key message for particularly Year 9 parents as well is that the expectation is just let your child have that time, their time to find themselves, to experience different opportunities. The breadth that's on offer here is pretty substantial, and they can go in lots of different directions. And sometimes, as a parent, there is that worry that your child is not making the progress you thought they would within the first couple of weeks, and actually it's just about giving them time and giving them that opportunity to make those friendships, and they will build some amazing memories. I know, looking back, look at the upper 6 that come back to me every year and say, "Gosh, miss, do you remember this in Acacia in Year 9?" And as you were saying earlier, those are the special
memories.
Yeah.
And also, it's a huge amount of trust, and we all appreciate that as a pastoral team, and the support that we have around pastoral care at Millfield. It does require parents trusting us, but I think the better the relationships are between us and parents, the closer we are, the more we understand about how these children think and how these children what they want out of life, the better it is for them. So.
And from what I hear about boarding, there's also a lot of fun had.
Oh.
There's lots of barbecues down on Chinder Avenue.
Too much. No, not too much. I mean, that's the the idea of you're living with your best friends and the boarding's just like a big sleepover. Well, actually, it is in many respects. It is. There's a load of fun, and the boys are always out doing something. JK have a wonderful. They play a lot of cricket outside, and they play football. And at the moment, I'm trying to stop them from playing cricket inside because it's outside. It's too cold. But there's a lot of fun to be had, and whether that fun is it's always regulated to a certain degree. But there's also a bit of healthy mischief and a bit of healthy behavior, which is great for kids. And I think it's that giving them that space to be with one another and potentially sometimes get it wrong, but also just to enjoy that camaraderie and that sense of belonging, And I even get involved sometimes. I even bowl a few balls. I don't go on the football pitch because I'm not good enough for that. But I'll play a bit of cricket and get involved. And the staff get involved in that. And when the summer comes along, we light the fire, and we have some. It's that communal time. It's that time to be together and enjoy each other's company. And
I suppose your family as well. I mean, your wife and your children,
absolutely.
They get involved.
Yeah, absolutely. And and my children see the 66 as big brothers. You know, they know them really well, and they feel connected to them. And because it's an all-encompassing role, and you live it. But the boys appreciate that, and the boys become part of that family, and so that's how boarding works at Millfield. It's really, really, really powerful.
Thank you both very much for your time today.
Thank you.
A lot of really useful insight into what it's like to board at Millfield. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Millfield Way podcast in conversation with Joe Moore and Mark Speyers. Thank you and goodbye.